Hello, I hope you're well. As some of you may know, especially those that join the streams, in recent weeks I have undertaken a bit of a ghost hunting project. I have been recording my mission stats over a long period of time, and I've finally hit 100 missions, so it's time for the first review. I'm going to share some of my data with you today. So what have I been recording? I've been recording what map I've been playing on, the mission length, the ghost's name, the ghost model, the ghost type, number of interactions in the mission from the ghost, number of ghost events, number of hunts. Did I find the Ouija board? Did I find the bone? Did I survive? How much money did I make? And big thank you to Jeb, if you're watching from the community, who has gone through every single mission and has also added each ghost room, something that I wasn't recording at the start. So thank you very much for that again, much appreciated. So what was the goal of doing all of this, you might ask? So I'm basically looking for any trends that I might not have realised at first without digging into the data in relation to the ghost types, maps, stuff like that. So are certain ghost types more active than we may have thought in terms of interactions, in terms of manifestations? Are some less active than we may have thought? Any interesting trends with each map that we may not have realised at first? So let's dig into the data anyway. I've put a few things together, but before that I do just want to mention all of these missions were played in the same way. It was me playing solo, me playing normally, trying to do all of the objectives, which I did most missions, just to keep everything standardised. First of all, the maps played across the 100 games. As you can see, I played at least 10 games on each map. This gave me a good variety of data across a range of different maps. You might be able to work out what my favourite map is as well. May or may not be Tanglewood. On the subject of maps, I also recorded my average mission length for each map. Not much to say here, it's very much as you would expect, with Tanglewood missions coming in at the quickest, and Asylum coming in at the longest, and the rest in the middle kind of fall in line as you would expect. Not many conclusions to draw here, but good to see. Moving on to the ghost type, because there are 12 ghost types, statistically you would expect to see each ghost around 8 times over the 100 games. And as you can see, that did kind of happen, which I was pleasantly surprised about, because at the end of the day it is random, but the more games you play, the more you should see it coming around this 8 mark. There are some exceptions, obviously. You've got the Djinn and the Phantom, which only came in at 6, and the Shade, which came in at a whopping 11, but like I said, the more games I play, you would expect to see this even out even more statistically. Very interesting to see regardless, so I did get a very good sample size for all the different ghost types, which I was very pleased about. Moving on to the ghost model, this one was just a bit of fun really, doesn't really tie into the other data. Approximately 1 in 4 games I never saw the ghost model, but when I did see the ghost model, the most popular by far was the one that looks like the Grudge, the girl from The Ring, the one that crawls in the white PJs. Terrifying. But it was kind of bizarre how often she appeared, to be honest. Closely followed by the one we refer to as the bowling pin in my community. That's the girl with the mouth for a face, the hideous one, you know what I mean. But it's very interesting to see the other end of the spectrum, where some of them were just so rare. I had the one that looks really skeletal, only twice. And the rarest of them all, the one that is referred to as the nerd in the game files, I think he's the dude with the jacket and he's got like an axe. I had him once out of 100 missions, so no idea where he's been hiding. Not a clue, but I would be very interested to know if you have similar experiences with your ghost models. Do let me know in the comments if this lines up with you, or if yours are completely different. I think it'd be really interesting to find out. But like I said, ghost model was just a bit of fun really. Moving on to did I find the bone and the Ouija. Just a bit of fun again. So I found the bone in about half of my missions. On the smaller maps, I found it most of the time. On the bigger maps, I very rarely found it, as you might expect. So overall, that kind of balanced out to 50%. For the Ouija board, I never found it on the bigger maps, high school, asylum and prison. It was never, in my opinion, it was never worth my time to go out and look for it. On the smaller maps, however, when I did actually have time to look for it, looking at the data from the smaller maps, I did actually find it about 1 in 3 times, which fits in with the spawn rate beautifully, because the Ouija is only supposed to spawn in about 1 in 3 missions, so that was amazing to see. But overall, I only found it 1 in 4 missions because I didn't find it on the bigger maps, so that's why that balances out to that. Now we're delving into the good stuff. We're looking at the ghost types and how active they were over the 100 missions. So we're going to be looking at the average number of interactions per minute for each ghost type, and also the average number of manifestations per minute for each ghost type. But before this, I just want to preface this by saying, after looking at the data, I am very pleased to say that I had each ghost type over a large different variety of maps and map sizes. So each ghost type has been present on small, medium and large maps several times each, which is great because that's going to help to make this more accurate. First, let's look at the average number of interactions per minute for each ghost type. So the winner, the highest by quite a bit, is the Jinn. I'm not surprised by this one because the Jinns are renowned to be quite territorial. They're known to mess with a lot of electronics. You can expect to see a lot of light switching, lamps being turned on and off, phones being rung, mobile phones being rung, even the microwave being used a lot in the kitchen. If it's in the garage, you can probably expect to see the car alarm being interacted with a lot of times. So I'm really not surprised by that. Jinns, I've found they interact with a lot of doors and throw items quite often as well. I just find that they're quite active when you're around, so yes, not surprising, that one. Second, almost as much as the Jinn, almost as active as the Jinn, was the Spirit in terms of interactions. I mean, if you read the journal, you might not expect this. The Spirit is supposed to be quite a generic ghost, but from my experience, all my spirits seem crazy. They all seem crazy. I don't know about you, do let me know if you find the same. But yes, I was not surprised to see the Spirit in the second place. We've then got the Rev, Demon, Banshee. You've got the Oni, somewhere around the middle mark. Onis are renowned to be quite active when people are in the building, so maybe I would have expected to see the Oni a little bit higher up, but we can look at the average number of ghost events and manifestations instead. Maybe they will be more active in that regard. Then you've got the Mare, the Wraith, the Shade. So the Shade is on the lower end of interactions per minute. Again, what you might expect. Then you've got the Phantom, the Yurei, and now this one might come as a surprise, but I had the Poltergeist as the lowest for the average number of interactions per minute. And this set off my alarm bells, so I went to look at the maps that I got Poltergeist on and the ghost rooms that I had a Poltergeist in. But I had Poltergeist across a variety of different maps. I had Poltergeist in rooms where they had the opportunity to interact with a lot of items and a lot of objects, but they just didn't. So I'm very, very intrigued to see the Poltergeist way at the bottom in terms of interactions. Because I know that a Poltergeist can be quite inactive in rooms where there's not much to interact with, but from looking at the data, there were a lot of opportunities for them to interact with things, so yes, I'm very surprised to see them at the bottom. Now let's have a look at the average number of ghost events per minute for each ghost type. So you might be surprised by some of these. First place, it's a tie, we've got 3. You've got the Shade, Yurei and Spirit. Now, let's start with the Shade. Shade, you think of shy ghosts, don't you? I've always had a feeling when I've played solo that my Shades have been pretty darn active, and it's nice to see the data coincide with this theory. I've found that when you play solo in general, Shades are always active in terms of interactions, ghost events. It's when you play in a group that I found that if you all group up, the activity can kind of drop, and the chance of them hunting when you're all together kind of reduces a lot when you're all in the ghost room. So just something to bear in mind when you are going in by yourself. If it is really active, yes, it could definitely be a Shade. Don't write them off. Then you've got the Yurei and the Spirit tied in for the first place as well. Spirit, again, one that I've always felt has been really active. Nice to see the data align with this again. Spirit feels like the wild card ghost in Phasmophobia to me. The most crazy ones, they always seem to be spirits. I don't know if you have the same experience. Do let me know in the comments. Then we've got the Rev and Oni coming just shy of 0.18 at 0.15 ghost events per minute, so still up there. Oni, yes, you would expect to see up there because they are renowned to be quite active ghosts. Then you've got the Wraith, you've got the Jinn, which is dropping off a little bit. So my Jinn seem to do more interactions than ghost events, which is what you might expect because they do really favour interacting with electronics in general. And then you've got the Mare, the Demon, the Phantom. Phantoms are supposed to be quite camera shy, you know. Then you've got the Banshee. Now, I was kind of surprised about the Banshee being so close to the bottom because Banshees, you would think they would be really active around their target. And when you play solo, bad news, you are the target 100%. So I was kind of expecting Banshees to be a little bit higher up, so that kind of surprised me. I guess they're too busy just hiding, doing Banshee things, waiting for me to pass an insta-hunt, eh? Yeah, just Banshees doing Banshee things. And then right at the bottom, we got the Poltergeist. Again, what is with my Poltergeists? They're so inactive. But I suppose Poltergeists, you would think they would interact with objects more than manifest, but I don't know if my Poltergeist and Shades got reversed. I just had some really inactive Poltergeists that came in at the bottom for both interactions and ghost events. So yes, that was quite surprising, I have to say. Some of those seem quite surprising at a glance, but I think when you dive into it and think about it, a lot of it does make sense. And if I did carry this on and get even more data, it'd be very interesting to see if the trend stayed similar or if it would change a bit more. Just to finish up, I multiplied the two previous values together to get an overall ghost activity score. So the spirit is coming in right at the top at 0.51. That does not surprise me. As mentioned earlier, when I was playing these 100 missions, whenever I got a really crazy inactive ghost, I had a hunch it was the spirit. I don't know what it is about them, they always seem mega active. So that does not surprise me at all. Then second, we've got the shade, which at a glance may seem odd, but as previously explained, when I've been playing solo, I found that they're really active in general, so that does not surprise me. Honestly, spirits and shades sometimes give me a similar vibe. It's very, very spooky. When I have a really active ghost, when I'm playing by myself, I kind of lean towards them, and more often than not, my gut is correct. Next up, just below them two, we've got the Yurei, Rev, and the Jinn, all tied at the same spot. The Jinn is probably the one worth talking about here. So yeah, I would expect them to be quite active. They were quite active with the interactions, as you would expect, because they are known to favour electronics, but they were a bit less active with the ghost events, but that's kind of what I would expect, to be honest. So nice to see that up in the second half. Then we've got the Oni. Again, it's up in the second half in terms of activity again. What you would expect, because they're renowned to be more active when people are nearby. So they were always kind of around the middle mark or above in terms of interactions or ghost events. So yes, as I would expect. Then you've got the Wraith Demon Mare Phantom. Again, quite generic, not really renowned for being more active. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that they're around the middle mark or lower, because of course there is going to be some random fluctuation with this. It is only across 100 missions, so not every ghost is going to turn out to be as active as the others. And then finally, the bottom two. These kind of surprised me a little bit, I won't lie. So the Banshee, as previously discussed, I would have thought they would have been really active around their target, which, shock horror, is me every game, because these were all done solo. But no, they were just quite shy in general. All of my Banshees felt shy. I was always surprised to see it was a Banshee once I got all the evidence. So that one's very intriguing. I'd be interested to see if that changes if I played more games. And then the biggest shock of them all to me was the Poltergeist. Just so inactive in terms of ghost events, which might be expected, because as you would expect, you would think the Poltergeist would throw a lot of items, have a lot of interactions, but very, very surprisingly to me, my Poltergeists were just so shy. They did not much at all, even when they had the opportunity to. As I said, I reviewed the maps that I had Poltergeists on, big variety of maps, big variety of ghost rooms where they did have the opportunity to do things, but across most missions they were just so shy. So very interested to see if that trend would continue for me if I carried on recording more missions, which I will do in the future. So they're the most important trends that I have discovered from my 100 missions. So just to clarify again, these missions were all played solo, they were all played normally, no challenges involved, and I did try to complete as many objectives as possible. I was very pleased to see that I had a big variety of map sizes for each ghost type as well, to help make the data more accurate. Of course, a lot of these mission factors and subsequently the data are down to random chance, but this has been my experience over the 100 games. Please do let me know down in the comments if you've noticed any trends which are similar to your own, or the complete opposite if none of it coincides with your own experience. I'd be really intrigued to know either way. I am hoping to carry on this experiment and do a review every 100 missions, so as I get more data, the trends should be more and more accurate. I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you for watching. As always, take care of yourselves and I'll catch you soon.